Preface to A Phantom Lover by Vernon Lee. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. A Phantom Lover, a Fantastic Story by Vernon Lee. To Count Peter Boturlin at Tagancha, Government of Kiev, Russia. My dear Boturlin, do you remember my telling you one afternoon that you sat upon the hearth-stool at Florence the story of Mrs. Oke of Oakhurst? You thought it a fantastic tale, you lover of fantastic things, and urged me to write it out at once, although I protested that, in such matters, to write is to exercise, to dispel the charm, and that printer's ink chases away the ghosts that may pleasantly haunt us as efficaciously as gallons of holy water. But if, as I suspect, you will now put down any charm that story may have possessed to the way in which we had been working ourselves up that firelit evening with all manner of fantastic stuff, if, as I fear, the story of Mrs. Oke of Oakhurst will strike you as stale and unprofitable, the sight of this little book will serve at least to remind you, in the middle of your Russian summer, that there is such a season as winter, such a place as Florence, and such a person as your friend Vernon Lee. A Phantom Lover. That sketch up there with the boy's cap? Yes, that's the same woman. I wonder whether you could guess who she was. A singular being, is she not? The most marvelous creature, quite, that I have ever met. A wonderful elegance, exotic, far-fetched, poignant. An artificial, perverse sort of grace and research in every outline and movement and arrangement of head and neck and hands and fingers. Here are a lot of pencil sketches I made while I was preparing to paint her portrait. Yes, there's nothing but her in the whole sketch-book. Mere scratches, but they may give some idea of her marvelous, fantastic kind of grace. Here she is leaning over the staircase, and here sitting in the swing. Here she is walking quickly out of the room. That's her head. You see, she isn't really handsome. Her forehead is too big, and her nose too short. This gives no idea of her. It was altogether a question of movement. Look at the strange cheeks, hollow and rather flat. Well, when she smiled, she had most marvelous dimples here. There was something exquisite and uncanny about it. Yes, I began the picture, but it was never finished. I did the husband first. I wonder who has his likeness now. Help me to move these pictures away from the wall. Thanks. This is her portrait, a huge wreck. I don't suppose you can make much of it. It is merely blocked in, and seems quite mad. You see, my idea was to make her leaning against a wall. There was one hung with yellow that seemed almost brown, so as to bring out the silhouette. It was very singular I should have chosen that particular wall. It does look rather insane in this condition, but I like it. It has something of her. I would frame it and hang it up, only people would ask questions. Yes, you have guessed quite right. It is Mrs. Oke of Oakhurst. I forgot you had relations in that part of the country. Besides, I suppose the newspapers were full of it at the time. You didn't know that it all took place under my eyes? I can scarcely believe now that it did. It all seems so distant, vivid but unreal, like a thing of my own invention. It really was much stranger than anyone guessed. People could no more understand it than they could understand her. I doubt whether any one ever understood Alice Oke besides myself. You mustn't think me unfeeling. She was a marvellous, weird, exquisite creature, but one couldn't feel sorry for her. I felt much sorrier for the wretched creature of a husband. It seemed such an appropriate end for her. I fancy she would have liked it, could she have known. Ah, I shall never